I mean, the main reason why I was coming on later is just because it wasn't really no reason for real. So I'm gonna try out some different times and see what works the best. Feel free to let me know what works the best for you as well. Moving forward with these lives, okay? I know some of y'all be at work, and then I know some of y'all be off work, and then you just never know. Some of y'all be at lunch. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta catch me when you catch me. That's why I be telling y'all, follow, turn the notifications on, so that regardless of the fact, you see me, okay? But we got a good topic today. We're going to be getting into soul ties and toxic relationships. This will be Q&A based, so feel free to ask your specific questions in the comments. Let's continue to get these likes up as we're going through this. We do have a live goal. Feel free to contribute to that as well. We have a subscription goal. Feel free to contribute to that as well. Feel free to share this video with people that you feel like could use these topics as well or could gain something from it. But we're about to get into it. First of all, I want to kind of cover toxic relationships first, and then we're going to kind of intertwine that with soul ties, because it all is kind of in the same breath of things, right? Now, I'm going to be speaking, of course, from an overall spiritual perspective, so understand that, know that, keep that in mind. This will not be one of those low vibrational ass conversations where I'm like, yeah, girl, keep going back to your ex. No, we're not doing that. This is going to be from a spiritual perspective. So again, keep an open mind. Understand that that's the angle that I'm coming from. Okay. Now, when it comes to toxic relationships, right? And this is not just about, like boyfriend, girlfriend, or romantic relationships, right? Understanding that toxic relationships can show up in any type of form, okay? Family, friends, loved ones, children, co-workers, spiritual connections or relationships, anything, okay? Anything. It can show up any type of way, right? So I want you to kind of keep an open mind as we're going through this, because this conversation could apply to other areas of your life. And I want you to, again, be open to that, okay? Now, with that being said, toxic relationships, number one, have been made to be common, right? Especially, I feel like in our community, and I'm speaking on melanated people, right? I feel like it has become way too common, more common than it actually should be, okay? And it has become a little overly glorified for whatever reason, okay? For whatever reason, people are glorifying having these back and forth type of relationships and having these toxic dynamics, right? Now, there's a difference between knowing that you're in a toxic dynamic and continuing to be in that dynamic for whatever your reasons are, versus not really knowing when you're in something that's toxic, right? Sometimes, based on your traumas, based on your past, based on what you went through, based on your life experiences, you can kind of have a warped idea of love, or a warped idea of relationship, or a warped idea of what those things should look like, what those things should feel like, how those things should present themselves in your life, right? And ultimately, it can cause you to be in situations that you're kind of blinded in. You don't really realize until you realize that situation probably isn't for you. And, things have to happen in order to kind of get you to slowly see over a span of time that isn't the best idea, right? Usually it takes, for those types of situations, it could take a while. There's really no amount of time, a specific amount of time, or how long it could take. But sometimes it could take a while for people to wake up and realize, like, okay, something about this is not right, right? This type of relationship dynamic, this type of connection, the way that we talking to each other, the way that we're treating each other, the different, experiences that we're having with each other, something's wrong here, right? That can take a while. Versus a person who has the intelligence or the understanding enough to know that I'm in something toxic, I'm in something low vibrational, I'm in something negative. However, I want to stay here. You know what I'm saying? However, I want to continue to be a part of this for whatever my reasons are, okay? And there could be a different amount of reasons of why somebody will stay in something that they know is toxic, that they know is not good for them, that they know is not benefiting them in any type of way. There could be several different things going on, okay, that can cause somebody to be in that type of energy, right? So we're going to kind of break down both perspectives and kind of get some background on why these things could be happening the way that they are. And then I also quickly want to go into soul ties. And with soul ties, I want to explain this first, right? A lot of people look at soul ties and immediately think of something negative, right? All soul ties are not negative. And that's something that I feel like the spiritual community has come out and kind of casted this general broad type of perspective over, and it's not even that, right? All soul ties are not negative. Sometimes you are connected to people and those are positive connections, right? Soul tie just simply means souls are tied to each other, right? That doesn't always mean that that has to be a negative thing. Now, of course, we do see a lot of negativity when it comes to people being tied to people that they shouldn't be tied to, right? Of course, we do see a lot of problems and issues that arise when these people are in those types of situations where they built this connection on a deeper level, on a spiritual level, and this person probably isn't the best for them, right? And again, yeah, I'll explain that to you later. And then again, this can happen in any dynamic, right? A lot of people associate soul ties strictly with love relationships or, you know, romantic relationships, and that's not true. There are specifically 4 different major types of soul ties, right? You have physical, you have mental, you have emotional, and you have social, okay? So those are different areas or different ways that you can become intertwined on a soul level with somebody, right? It's not always physical. It's not always, oh, we did it and, you know, now we tied to each other. Does that happen when you do go into sexual relations? Okay, I got to choose my words wisely. Can you and will you probably be tied to that person? Yes. And that's why you shouldn't be out here doing it to everybody. Period. Okay? You're going to walk away with something from that person. That person will walk away with something from you. Okay? That energy is one of the most powerful energies that we have here in this realm. So it's not anything to be taken lightly. And the world has, again, made those type of intimate settings so social and so just free for all that we are encountering some of the things that we're encountering. A lot of people want to look at it from a religious point and be like, oh, you're not supposed to do it with anybody that you're not married to. That's more of the religious part when we're talking about marriage, right? But what they're really trying to say, if you look at it from a spiritual perspective, is you shouldn't be sharing your body, your soul, okay? Because as a woman, that's your portal. You shouldn't be sharing your portal with anybody that you don't have a certain connection to. Just period, right? And we're spiritual beings. I'm talking to spiritual people. So if you're not spiritual, if it don't apply, let it fly, okay? But for spiritual beings, when you start to understand energy and energetic exchange, okay, you realize, like, I shouldn't be interacting with people on this level just all willy-nilly. You know what I'm saying? Just, like, whenever I want, I'm just going to go over here because I feel like I'm just going to go over there because I feel like it. You shouldn't be doing all that. That's just not it, right? So, with that being said, there again are 4 different types of soul ties, right? And they're not based on romance. Okay, soul ties are not based in romance. They can come through romance, right? But that's not the only way that those things happen. Okay, so you have physical soul ties. Physical soul ties are usually what people equate to when they have, you know, okay, with each other, right? But that can also come through other forms, right? That can come through holding hands, kissing, hugging, holding, cuddling. I mean, all types of other things. It's physical. It doesn't say what physical things you have to do. It just says overall it's physical, okay? Then you have mental. These are those mental relationships or connections that you have with a person. So maybe that person, you and them have really deep conversations, or maybe they're in your head and you're in their head, or maybe y'all have an intellectual relationship or whatever, right? It's a mental thing, right? It's based in the crown chakra, right? More so than the physical, okay? Then you have spiritual soul ties or social soul ties. And these are the ones where it could be like a community, right? So for example, we're looking at it from a religious standpoint. It could be the relationship that you got with a pastor. It could be from a spiritual standpoint, the relationship that you have with a mentor, or something like that. It can be from a social environment, so a group of friends, right? You and all of your friends could be tied together. All of that, right? And then you have an emotional soul tie, right? Which just basically means you are emotionally connected, okay? So there's different types of soul ties, and it's not just about who you are having grown-up time with, right? And I want to really put that out there, because a lot of y'all are so tied to people that you've never done that type of stuff with. It could be a friend, and you wonder why you and this friend can't let go of each other. It can be a mother and daughter relationship, and you wonder why, certain things may be toxic. It can be a sibling relationship, right? The soul has no bounds in the relationships that it can create, okay? So it's not just going to be a grown-up time and what I'm talking about type of thing all the time, okay? Thank you for the gift. So with that being said, I wanted to kind of put that out there before we get deeper into soul ties, just so everybody can be on the same page as far as the basic understanding of the different types of soul ties and how they can affect us differently. All right, now moving on to toxic relationships. Okay, now of course, like I said in the beginning, based on, and feel free to put questions in the comments if you have them, or whatever, based on childhood specifically, right? And y'all know I'm gonna always go back to childhood, because childhood is where you learned the majority of the shit that you know. Childhood is where you were taught the majority of the things that you kind of live your life by, right? Whether you have started your healing process or not, you are still highly, highly and deeply affected by whatever happened, transpired, whatever you experienced in your childhood. It just is what it is, right? So a lot of times traumas can, certain traumas, especially with parents, where you aren't getting what you need from a parent, or you have a toxic relationship with that parent, or you are looking for something from a parent and they're not fulfilling that thing, or you don't have an emotional connection with a parent. There could be so many different things that can happen specifically with parents. Or maybe the parent wasn't there at all and you're dealing with abandonment. There's so many different things, okay, that can grow you with this mentality or this specific outlook on what a relationship should look like and what you should tolerate in a relationship. And again, I'm not just talking about a romantic relationship, because our relationship with our parents also dictates the way that we have friendships. I know for me personally, my friendships with women was fucked up. When it came to me being friends with other women, it was always a little weird, right? Thank you for the gifts. And a lot of it was based on the relationship that I had with my mom. I wasn't able to really connect with a lot of other women or trust a lot of other women, or try to get to a level of connection with a lot of other women, because my relationship with my mom was fucked up. And I use her as an example. Like, if you were a woman and you could do X, Y, and Z, why would I trust this bitch? You know what I'm saying? Why would I try to, break my neck to build a relationship with this person? Or, whatever the case is, right? So I was very standoffish from relationships with women. And to this day, I've never been the type that wanted a whole lot of friends anyway. So let's just put that out there, which a lot of people feel that way. Never been that type, never wanted to be the one with 10,000 people in a friend group. That's not for me. I don't like all that, right? But even with the friends that I did have, I struggled with vulnerability, because in friendships, there is a requirement for you to be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? It's just like a relationship. Friendships are no different than a relationship. The only difference is y'all not doing it. That's it. You still got to be vulnerable. You still got to be loyal. You still got to be trustworthy. You still got to show up. You still got to be supportive. All of the things that you would be looking for in a partner, except marriage and children and, sexual connection. You still got to have those things if you want to have a healthy friendship. So it's really no different. And a lot of people don't govern friendships like they would a relationship, which is why a lot of friendships fail. Because people feel like, oh, that's a friend. I don't have to do X, Y, and Z. There's certain things I don't got to do. There's certain things I don't even know to do, right? And because you're not putting in the work the way that you would a relationship, those friendships kind of dwindle away, or they kind of die, or they be what they be. You know what I'm saying? And you just kind of accept it for what it is and keep it pushing. So that's just an example, right, of how childhood can have effects on the relationships that you come to have as an adult, right? Not only that, for me personally, my relationship with my father took a huge effect on the way that I was able to have relationship with men, right? For me, because my father wasn't as active as I felt like he needed to be, right? Or didn't give me the affection that I wanted, or didn't, support me the way that I wanted, or show up for me the way that I wanted. In relationships with men, I try to always figure out a way of how I could protect myself and also get what the fuck I want. So for a long time, especially, in high school, because most of us lost our V card in high school. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't, you didn't, but the majority of us did, okay? They was calling us fast back in the day, and honestly, we was a little fast. But a lot of us was moving out of trauma and didn't really notice, didn't really realize it. A lot of it was, generational curses that we was acting out of and didn't even notice and didn't even realize it, and it was what it was. Some of us had childhood trauma that prompted us to be hypersexual, you know what I'm saying, which was my situation. Different experiences that we went through that caused us to be a little bit more open to things that we shouldn't have been open to at such a young age. And that's just how certain shit go, right? So in high school, I was already active. Okay, you catch my drift, you know what I'm talking about. I was active in high school. About 10th grade and up, I was doing what grown people do. Okay, and because of my relationship with my father, it caused me to go into these situations only seeking what I can get out of them. So very manipulative, very using. Right? I felt like, shit, you using me, I'm gonna use you. You know what I'm saying? You coming in for what you want, so I'm gonna get what I want too, right? And it helped me feel a power. I used to use it as a way to feel this sense of power that I didn't feel when it came to my personal life, right? And that ended up getting me into situations that ultimately, took a toll on me mentally, spiritually, physically, all of the things, right? And it was because, I didn't know how to process all of that, and nobody taught me the things that I needed at home, right? When you are raised in an environment where there is love and there's affection and there is, communication, because communication is such a big one. I grew up in a household where my mother didn't communicate with me like that. Not the way that I needed, you know what I'm saying? My dad was barely there to even try to communicate with me with certain things, right? When my mother gave me the birds and the bees conversation, it wasn't like, respect your body and respect yourself and, you're beautiful and you can wait for this. It was like, you can get an STD and here's a picture of a coochie cat with an STD. Look, do you want this to be you? You know what I'm saying? Here's a picture of a peen with an STD. Do you want this to be you? A nigga only need a couple minutes to get his off, and then he gonna leave you, and then he gonna walk away, and it's, he not gonna think about your ass no more. That was my conversation. And some people didn't even get that. But that was my introduction to relationships. Thank you, babe. and sexual connections. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, look, you got all the time in the world. You are beautiful. A whole bunch of people gonna want you, but don't give your body up, right? What's in between your legs is a prized possession, and I ain't get that. My mother basically tried to beyond scare straight us out of doing those things, and for real, all it did was made me more curious. Which happened for a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? When you tell a child, don't do this and don't do that, and the way that you saying it, the way that you giving it up, girl, now I'm about to go figure it out. Because what is you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Now I'm curious. Or either I want to prove you wrong. Like, that man not going to do that. That man love me. That boy love me. I'm about to prove you wrong. I'm going to go do it. And then prove to you that he not going to get up and leave and not talk to me no more. You know what I'm saying? Instead, it was almost like, I can tell that it was out of love to a certain extent, but it was also a trauma dump. Because that's what happened to her in a lot of situations. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of women go through that. But to dump that type of information on your 15-year-old child and expect for them to take that and be like, oh, okay, mom, I'm going to listen to you. It's absolutely nonsense. That doesn't even make sense. Especially when the relationship that you have with that child is already disrupted. So the respect level for the things that my mother was telling me wasn't even there, because the respect level for her wasn't even there. So I'm not about to listen to you, and I don't even respect you anyway outside of this conversation. You know what I'm saying? We already got our issues. We already got the shit that we dealing with. You trying to give me advice. Girl, I'm not listening to nothing that you saying. Right? And that's how we are as humans. We don't really respect the advice or the opinions of people that we already don't got no relationship with, or that we not bonded with properly, or that we have, fucked up connections with. I'm not about to listen to you. I don't give a fuck about what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just is what it is. And especially you being a child, you still in that age range don't have the ability to take the message and leave the rest. You don't have that ability, right? You take everything as it is. My mama telling me some shit, and then you look at their lifestyle, right? Because I was one of those kids at 15, shit, even before 15, that would look at my mother's lifestyle and then listen to the shit that she tried to say to me and be like, girl, what? You a hypocrite like a motherfucker. How you sitting here trying to tell me to not do this and to not do that and to act like this and to act like that and to carry myself like this and carry myself like that, and then I'm sitting here watching you do all of this wild ass shit, or I'm sitting here watching you, do the very opposite of what it is that you're trying to tell me to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not making no motherfucking sense. Like, what the fuck? No type of leading by example, right? It's like parents say, you do what I say and not as I do. That don't make sense to a child. Okay, I was an elementary school teacher for 2 years, and we always had these workshops that we had to go to in order to, learn new methods of stuff. And y'all know how all jobs have workshops to a certain degree, right? So we would have to do these workshops, and they would always break down to us how vital it was to lead by example when it came to children. And that was for elementary school children, right? Because those are the most sensitive ages of a child's life. So if you go back right now and you think about some of the things that you experienced while you were in elementary school, so that's ages 4 or 5 to about 10 or 11, right? Look at the different things that you experienced during those years. At home, in life, at school, in different environments, and try to figure out or pinpoint how you would have even had the ability to think straight when it came to other things. Would you have been able to make sense of certain things that people were saying, even though their actions were showing you something different? Fuck no. Hell no. You know what I'm saying? Not at all. You wouldn't have been able to tell the difference between shit. You telling me one thing, but then I see you doing things, right? And children at that age, they learn more from what is being shown to them versus what is being told to them. This is why in those ages, children learn how to walk, they learn how to talk, they learn how to act, right? And it's all based on what they see. They pick up everything. If anybody got kids on here, if anybody ever raised kids or work with kids, you know that in those ages of elementary school, those kids are like parrots. They repeat every goddamn thing. They repeat what you say. They repeat what you do. They repeat your energy. They repeat how you act. I mean, the shit that you don't even know that they see and they repeat it. You know what I'm saying? They saying words and they don't even know what the words mean. They're saying, you know, they're doing different things and don't even know that it's bad, right? And all of this is because of the examples that are being set in their space. The way that the adults are acting in their space, whether it's at home, whether it's at school, whether it's at a religious space, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, those years specifically are very, very influential when it comes to how we start to develop, right? And then you get to middle school. So whatever happened to you during elementary school years, in those early baby years, toddler years, whatever, right? Because some people experience shit from 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, right? My shit started at 5. Well, really, I started experiencing, you know, my parents were very toxic towards each other, and I was able to kind of figure out and see that shit was bad at a very young age. You know what I'm saying? Like 3 and 4. And then I started going through my own traumas at 5. So it was very early on for me, right? So a lot of people may have that story where things happen very early on, okay? And we're leading up to how we eventually get to these toxic relationships. So all of that happens during your elementary school years, right? And you don't even know how to process that. You don't even know that anything really happened necessarily, or you don't even know that things are as bad as they are, or that they have affected you as much as they have affected you, right? And then you move into middle school. Now, by the time you start going through middle school, this is when your hormones start to kick up. So not only are you dealing with whatever you dealt with from elementary school years in those periods of your life, but now your body is going through changes and you're starting to feel and process things on a different level, right? For most of us women, this is around the age where we start to get our cycle. For men, this is around the age where they say your quote unquote balls drop, right? You start to get into that man, that you know, I'm not gonna say manhood, but your manhood starts to try to blossom a little bit more, right? Things start to happen, okay? So based on what you have seen in your environment, thank you, babe. Based on what you have seen in your environment, partnered up with what you are experiencing hormonally, these things start to kind of come together and mutate, right? And they start to create other things. It starts to push you into other shit, right? You become more susceptible to certain things. You become more open to certain things. Whether those things are good or bad, it doesn't really matter, because you're open at this point, right? All of these things are coming together and putting you in this space where you are more open to doing things that you probably shouldn't do, but you also are still in a childlike mentality. So you don't really necessarily, you don't have the ability to weigh out the pros and the cons yet, right? A middle school child, I don't care how grown they act, I don't care how much they cuss, they can have a whole ass baby. And we done seen children have children at a very young age. You know what I'm saying? I can remember being in middle school and seeing middle school girls have babies. You know, some of y'all may have had a baby in middle school. It just, shit happens, right? So even with all of that happening, even with your body becoming more developed and things of that nature, your mind, you're still mentally a fucking child. So you're still not able to weigh out good or bad, pros and cons, you know, the same way a 27-year-old would, the same way a 30-year-old would, the same way a 40-year-old would. You don't have that ability. You haven't had those life experiences yet. Your brain is literally still forming, like literally still forming at those ages. So you don't have all the information and knowledge that you need in order to properly decipher everything that's good and everything that's bad and the difference between both, right? So these are just layers on top of layers on top of layers on top of layers of things that are happening, that you're experiencing, that are adding to your idea and your outlook on what connections and relationships look like. You know what I'm saying? So for a lot of us, because of what we experienced in early childhood, you know, elementary school years, then based on what our bodies are going through and what we're experiencing in middle school, right? You know, elementary school years, then based on what our bodies are going through and what we're experiencing in middle school, right? By the time, you know what I'm saying? You don't have any type of clear understanding of a lot of shit, right? And high school is where you really start to develop actual connections and relationships, right? This is when you get into the, I mean, some people go through the puppy love phase in middle school and shit like that, but it's not as serious as we take it by the time we get to high school. High school, you think you in love, you know what I'm saying? You think you're gonna marry these people. You think you're gonna live out your life on the beach with this person. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna have 15 kids and this is gonna happen and that's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? High school really puts you in that place where you basically think you grown. We all thought we was grown as hell in high school. You know? Especially based on the things that you have already went through in those previous years. It kind of forces you to grow up, especially if, like for me, I was the oldest, right? I am the oldest of 3 boys. So I just knew I was grown. I was already taking care of my brothers and doing this, and I had to be responsible, and I had to grow up quick so I could, you know, tap in and do certain shit. And you know, the responsibilities on me was a lot more than it was for my brothers. Even though I was the only girl, didn't fucking matter. You responsible for this. You need to cook, you need to wash the dishes, you need to wash the clothes, you need to make sure that they're doing this, you need to make sure that they're doing that, whatever, right? So responsibility, taking care of somebody else's kids. Even though those were my siblings, those were my kids. Now, some people had to take care of parents, because you have some people who had parents who had addictions, who were alcoholics, you know what I'm saying, who had issues. Maybe they had disabilities, maybe they were sick, whatever, right? Or you maybe stayed with your grandparents and you had to step up and do shit like that. Whatever your childhood kind of looked like, by the time you got to high school, you was in a whole different mentality, right? So the relationships and the bonds that you started to form based on all of those experiences were probably not the best ones. It probably wasn't the ideal candidates. You know what I'm saying? You wasn't probably going for the little nice boys, you know, just trying to be their friend and shit like that. Like, most of us was trying to hunch. And we wasn't trying to hunch on the nice boys. We was trying to hunch on the boys that was fighting every day. Or, you know, the ones that was, you know, toting that thing. Or, you know what I'm saying? The ones that was in that shit. Or going to juvie every couple fucking months. Or, you know what I'm saying? You wasn't going for the right picks. Even if they didn't have that type of lifestyle, they still weren't necessarily the right type of example of what you should be going after. Something about it was off, right? And a lot of it was based on, again, whatever you experienced. If you had a parent who was an alcoholic, you was more fond to build some type of relationship or connection with an alcoholic, or somebody who struggled from some type of addiction, right? If you had a parent who abandoned you and didn't invest into you emotionally, maybe you either found somebody who didn't, just like your parent, or you found somebody who maybe did, but other areas were fucked up. So maybe they invested into you emotionally, but they also was abusive. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they invested into you emotionally, but they didn't know how to communicate, or they was a cheater. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was always something that was off, right? And because we never was taught how to process those types of relationships and how to figure out if that was a good thing or a bad thing, especially when you grow up in a house of toxicity. Toxicity just becomes a part of what you're used to. And a lot of the times at a young age, we start to form relationships with people who are toxic, but that's because we're used to being toxic. We're used to our parents being toxic. We're used to the households being toxic. We're used to our families being toxic. You know what I'm saying? My family is toxic as hell. And they church people toxic. That's one of the worst ones. Hey, everybody just tuning in. We do have a live goal, so feel free to contribute. It is a way of showing thanks and gratitude for the live. Feel free to definitely contribute to the likes, and feel free to share, okay? Also, make sure that y'all are following. But a lot of us grew up in toxic environments, so it was nothing for us to see some toxic shit and be a part of it. It was nothing for us to attract somebody who was also toxic in their own way, whether it was a way that was familiar to us or whether it was just toxic overall and it was just something that we were familiar with. I attracted a lot of people who weren't available for me, and that's because, again, going back to my relationship with my father wasn't available for me. So a lot of the boys or the men that I attracted, there were always some type of reservation with them. They weren't always completely available, right? And what I mean by that is they either was fucking with other women, right? Or they had commitment issues, or, you know, when it was time to quote unquote make it shit official or move to the next step of things, they would back out. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that, right? And I would think like, damn, like, why do I keep attracting these type of men? You know, even as I got into my early 20s, you know, some of it was the same. And I'm like, how do I keep finding myself in these same types of situations? And it wasn't until I started to do my shadow work in regards to my childhood trauma that I started to uncover a lot of stuff, right? Not only was my father physically not available a lot of times when I was a kid, but my mother, who I was living with, was emotionally not available. So that abandonment is not always just dealing with the presence, the physical presence of somebody. Sometimes they could be right there in the same room, same house, and still not be available to you on an emotional level, right? So you're still going without what you need. You're still not getting what you need from that person, from that parent. You're still not able to have or form that connection or that bond with that person. And a lot of times when we are going through our healing process and we try to go back to our parents and talk about it, they don't completely understand what you're talking about, because in their head, bitch, we was in the same house. You know what I'm saying? What do you mean I wasn't there for you? What do you mean I didn't show up for you? My mother will always say, I put a roof over your head. I put clothes on your back. I made sure that your belly was full. You know what I'm saying? I took you where you needed to go. I bought this and I bought that. I'm like, yeah, but you also didn't really talk to me like that. We ain't never had no real heart-to-heart type of conversations. Like, I see some people, relationships with their mom, and they're like, my mom knows everything. I'm like, your mom knows everything? I used to be so like, especially when I was in high school, and I would have, I didn't have that many people that I would consider a friend, but of course you have people who are around you, and I'm like, I never had, like, what do you mean you be telling your mother everything? Like, everything, or like everything that you want her to know? Because I would just tell people what I want them to know. I'm not telling you everything. Like, I never could even fathom at that age going to my mother and just telling her shit. Like, girl, what? Like, y'all be doing that? Like, for real? And what do your mom be saying? Like, what be her reaction? You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit was crazy to me as a teenager. Like, I could not believe that people had those type of relationships with their mom. Like, it was just mind-blowing to me. But I did start to understand a little bit, because my mother, even though me and her didn't have that type of relationship, she had that type of relationship with her mother, where they told each other everything, right? My mother, when she woke up in the morning, she would call her mother. That was her first phone call of the day, every single day. Every single day. You know what I'm saying? Every single fucking day. And I'm talking 5:50 a.m., 6 a.m. I can hear my mother in there cackling on the phone with my grandmother. And when I say she's telling her everything, I'm talking about everything. her relationship life, her marriage life at the times that she was married, her sex life, their job. I mean, open book. And I could never understand that shit, because I'm looking like, girl, I wouldn't even tell you what color drawers I got on right now. You know what I'm saying? That's how I felt about my mom. Like, I wouldn't even trust you with the passcode to my phone. Like, girl, what? And you in there keying it up with your mom about the nigga that you was talking to and this, and I could never. You know what I'm saying? Like, girl, no, I don't trust you for that. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't realize that was a strange dynamic, again, until I got around people who was showing me a different thing. And that's usually when we realize, oh, I'm in something toxic. And I'm starting with family before we get to love and relationships for a reason, okay? So follow. We don't know that we're in toxic situations, especially with our parents, until somebody else comes and brings us an example of what it could look like, right? Because I grew up again, me personally, and I'm sure some of you guys share the same sentiment, I grew up in an environment where I was estranged from both of my parents. You know, whether I was in a house with them or not, I didn't have that type of connection with them. I didn't have that type of relationship with them. There was no adult figure in my life that I trusted with my truth as a kid. Not happening. Nobody. Right? It's not happening. I'm not telling y'all shit. I was very, what they would call, sneaky. They would say, oh, you being sneaky. I'm not being sneaky. I just don't trust y'all. And my mother could never understand that. So it was always, you being sneaky, you being fast, you doing this and you doing that. It's like, no, I'm not sneaky. I just am not telling you my business. So you just don't know it. And you finding shit out late because I done got in trouble or something. And then it comes out because I done got in trouble. But it's not because I was being sneaky. I don't sneak and do shit. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never had to go behind closed doors and do a goddamn thing. However, I'm not going to tell you about it because I don't trust you with it. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't until, again, I got around people who had a different family dynamic, a different dynamic with their parents, that I started to look at the dynamic with my parents and be like, hold up. Something's not right. You know what I'm saying? So you mean to tell me that you and your mother had a conversation last night about all of that shit? Okay. Or when it came to my dad. Like, so you mean to tell me that your father picked you up and spent all of this money to get you the shit that you need? Well, my dad would tell me I can't get new shit until I got good grades, or I can't get the things that I need because I don't deserve it, or I can't get this and I can't get that, even though he's not showing up, even though there's certain things that I'm struggling with, you know what I'm saying, even though I'm in certain predicaments, you know what I'm saying, I always had to prove myself in order to get basic shit that I needed, okay? I could be wearing the same fucking shoes over and over again, and my father would be like, well, how about them grades? Bitch, how about these shoes? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? You more concerned about these fucking grades than this? Or if I did need something, you know what I'm saying? Oh, Dad, I'm going on a field trip and I need X, Y, and Z. And he showed up with $15. You working all of these jobs, and that's your reason why you can't come get me, why we can't do this and why we can't do that, because you at work all the time. And then it didn't make it no better, again, going back to toxic connections, that my mom would give me all the tea on you. As a kid, I shouldn't have known half of that shit. You know what I'm saying? But my mama giving you all the goddamn tea giving me all the tea on you. So now I know that you carry me on your taxes, which means you getting extra money every motherfucking year, and you still don't want to give me the shit that I need for a school year? You still only got $20 to give me for a field trip? Or for the book fair or whatever, right? So it's like, now you're taking your child brain, you're taking the information that you're being presented with and the things that you experience, and you're trying to make sense of it. And you can only make but so much sense as a child. You can only get so much out of it when you're looking at it from that type of perspective, and your brain is still trying to develop. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can only do but so motherfucking much and figure out but so much, right? So then you start to lean on things that probably aren't the best for you because you feel like you're not getting what you need. So for me in high school, it was getting what I wanted from relationships. If I can't get what I want from my dad, or I can't get what I want from my mom, then I'm going to get it in the form of relationships. I'm going to get it in the form of, being manipulative or being self-centered in my relationships, right? I was the girl who was in 10th and 11th grade dating the 20-something-year-olds. Because in my head, and this is how trauma works, in my head, I'm not going to even say in my head, but this is how trauma works, right? Because my father wasn't giving me what I needed, I'm dating older men, right? Because age-wise, it in some types of way represents the age, right? And the quote-unquote maturity, right? And then I'm getting all this attention. I'm getting picked up from school, you know what I'm saying? Wanted to get picked up by my dad on the weekends and to do shit, but I can't do that. So now I'm getting picked up in school by these niggas, you know what I'm saying? Going to their house, doing whatever the fuck we doing. They taking me, I think I'm living La Viva Loca. They taking me to get food and dropping me off and picking me up and doing all types of things. And in my head, that's doing something. Even though that shit is toxic as fuck, because why are you this age fucking with a 16-year-old? That's weird. You know what I'm saying? That's weird. Why are you this age messing with somebody that is young as hell like that? That's not normal. And I didn't think about it at that age because I was in high school. What the fuck? I'm pressed. It's a car pulling up for me, and I get to leave and go wherever the fuck I want to go, and what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not thinking this nigga is a creep. Because why you not fucking with somebody your own age? That's not going through nobody's head. That's not going through my head. That's not where my brain is. I'm not even, that's the furthest thing from my head. Because I'm just so pressed that I'm getting some type of attention. I'm just so pressed that somebody of that age range is even looking at me, because it's feeding something in me that I felt like I wasn't getting at home. It's replacing something that I felt like I was going without. And again, when you come from a toxic environment and you're not getting certain things as a child, you don't know how to get your brain around the fact that that's what that is. You just feel what you feel. You're looking at it from the perspective that you're looking at it. And it can be a very childish perspective. But somewhere in that, you're kind of correct to feel away, right? Especially if you're not being fed the way you need to be fed emotionally. You know, your parents aren't investing into you the way that you need them to, or showing up the ways that you need them to, whether they were in the house or not, whether they were providing or not, right? And it used to irritate me so bad, you know, going through high school and hearing my parents say, especially my mom, because I was living with her, you know, I put a roof over your head, I did this, I did that. And it's like, girl, okay, and what the fuck? That's what you're supposed to do. I'm your child. I didn't ask to be here. But that's not what this relationship is just supposed to be. You just providing, right? There's a lot of people who get provided for and they still are lacking. Especially as a child, there are certain things that you need. And I didn't understand that because, again, by the time I got to high school, I wasn't even looking at myself as a child, even though I was. You know what I'm saying? Even though I motherfucking was. The fuck? Okay? Exactly. You gotta pay the bills because you gotta live there too. Exactly. But I didn't look at myself like that. That was my moment to say I'm almost free. That's how I started looking at it. I'm getting closer and closer to fucking freedom. That was my mentality, right? And because I would be in that toxic environment at home and feel uncomfortable in my own house and feel the way that I feel, by the time I got to school, I wasn't thinking about school. I was thinking about escaping whatever the fuck I was feeling at home escaping whatever pain and trauma I was experiencing, escaping whatever hurt feelings, broken heart, whatever the fuck, you know what I'm saying? Escaping whatever experiences that I've had years before that went untreated, you know what I'm saying? So by the time I got to school, I didn't give a fuck about no schoolwork. That was the last thing on my goddamn mind. I didn't care about the motherfucking algebraic, you know, solution and finding the value of X. Bitch, I don't care. I wasn't invested into that. That didn't make me no difference. That was the least of my concerns. I did not care. How can I capitalize off of not being home? Okay, well, this person said they're going to come pick me up, so I'm going to go to their house. Okay, well, the gas station is down the street, so I'm going to leave school for a second and go walk to the gas station just so I can get out of this motherfucker. Okay, we got a area here in Maryland called the Boulevard. And the Boulevard is basically like, it's like a shopping center where it's like the Magic Johnson Theater and different clothing stores and shoe stores and shit like that. So I would catch the bus over there sometimes and just walk around. You know what I'm saying? My mentality was, how can I utilize my time away from the motherfucking house so that I can do whatever I need to do, so I can feel whatever I need to feel, so I can have some time to myself, so that I can decompress, so I can do things that make me feel better. Because I know when this bell rings at the end of the damn day, I gotta go right back into that house with that bullshit. I gotta go right back to reality. So that shit would be my escape. And because of that, it started to take a toll on my schoolwork. Of course, I'm not showing up sometimes, or I'm not doing my homework, or I'm staying up late at night because I'm trying to take in as much time as I can to you know, do shit at home in my own room, you know, before I have to go to school the next day. So now I'm up 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning before I go to school. So now I get to school and I'm tired. I don't feel like doing that shit. I don't want to hear that shit. So now my mouth is smart to my teachers. I'm not trying to talk to y'all. Y'all in my face, y'all talking shit, leave me the fuck alone. Okay, and a lot of that started in middle school. I was getting in trouble, phone calls every damn week in middle school. And I knew I was going to get in trouble. I knew my father was going to pull up at my grandmother's house and whip my ass or cuss me out or whatever. At a certain point, I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care. Because I felt like, why should I care when my parents are doing things and they don't care? Why should I care? I don't have the capacity. I'm a child. I don't have the capacity to care right now, right? And I also don't know what I'm feeling necessarily, but I know I'm not feeling anything good. I know that what I'm feeling is not beneficial to me. So it ultimately don't fucking matter. I had a whole bunch of I don't give a fuck ass types of attitudes. Like, I didn't care, right? And all of that happening is curating a certain mentality. It's creating a certain mentality within me that ultimately led me to certain relationships and friendships that were not beneficial. Some of the relationships I got into were trauma bonds. Not only was I going through what I was going through with my parents, but some of those people was going through what they was going through with their parents. You know what I'm saying? Some of those relationships were, or friendships were trauma bonds. You know what I'm saying? My best friend in middle school and high school, her mom passed away, right? My mom didn't pass away, but she damn near basically did, because I didn't have no emotional connection with my mom. We weren't connected. I was always beefing with my mother. I felt like my mother didn't like me. You know what I'm saying? My mother preferred my brothers over me. I would hear my mother on the phone, and I've shared this before. I would hear my mother on the phone telling people, I don't like my daughter. She get on my nerves, and she pissed me off, and that girl this, and that girl that. And I took that shit to heart. Because not only are you saying it, but I'm feeling it in the way that you treat me. I'm feeling it in the energy that you give me sometimes. Why you always so quick to have an attitude with me? You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of things was like, oh, well, maybe she don't. Maybe she does really feel this way. Maybe she don't really fuck with me because look at how she treat me. Look at how she talk to me. Look at how she acts. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those things created internally parts of me that were magnetic to toxicity. It was like a magnet. It was like I can damn near just go out and meet a stranger, and some way, somehow, we was gonna be on the same page about some shit that we went through. You know what I'm saying? Some way, somehow, we was gonna have some type of shared experience or connection or whatever, right? Even down to the boys or the men that I got into relationships with, or that I was sexually active with in high school, they had their own issues with their parents, specifically their fathers. Maybe their fathers weren't in the home. Well, my dad was basically not in the home. I didn't grow up in the house with my father for real. Not like you would, you know what I'm saying? Especially when I finally moved with my mom, I didn't see my dad as much as I should have at those ages. You know what I'm saying? Those ages that mattered. Even being a young child, I stayed with my grandmother the majority of elementary school. So my Monday through Fridays, and sometimes my Monday through Sundays, was me at my grandma's house with her and her sister, my great aunt. And that was that. So I didn't really have a lot of the things that I should have had. There wasn't a lot of things that were instilled into me. And granted, parents have their own traumas and their own things that they've experienced that cause them to have the mentalities that they have, right? So their intentions may not be to abandon you. Their intentions may not be to treat you a certain type of way. Their intentions may not be to not show you that love and that support and that care or whatever. However, it happens. Just because you don't intend for something to happen, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, you know? So because they don't have the information that they need to even know that they're dealing with the things that they're dealing with, to acknowledge that they're dealing with the things that they're dealing with, it doesn't really help you in getting that acknowledgement either. Because it's almost like when you try to convince somebody or show somebody that they're wrong, and they can't even see that they're wrong because nobody ever pointed it out to them. They think that what they're doing is normal too. They're like, my mama did this. My daddy was like this. You know what I'm saying? My mother thought that everything that she was doing was normal because her mama did it to her. So the time her mother done smacked me and jacked me up against the walls and called me bitches and hoes and all types of shit and dragged me across beds by my hair, okay, like full, drug me across beds and all types of shit. She didn't see nothing necessarily wrong with that because she went through her own types of shit with her mom, and based on that, she just thought it was discipline. She just thought that that was a normal mother and daughter relationship. But the difference between me and her versus her and her mom was, I'm not going to be open with you after you do some shit like that. We not about to have no relationship and no close-ass connection after you treated me like that. Now, you can do that with your mama after she treats you like that, and you stay down and you stay loyal and you continue to be all open with her, tell her all your business. You can do that. I'm not fucking doing that. I don't trust your ass, like I said, with the drawers I got on. I'm not telling you a fuck-ass thing. I'm not telling you nothing. Okay? I don't care. And my parents would sit down and be like, just tell me, like, what's going on with you? I'm like, nothing. I'm not telling y'all shit. There has not been any space created for me to feel safe enough to tell y'all what the fuck is going on with me. Right? And parents don't understand that because, again, they're in their own perspective of things. They feel like they're doing either what they're supposed to do, what they gotta do, whatever. They're not thinking how you thinking. They don't see it how you see it. And they head, they doing everything they're supposed to do. They may not think they're the best parents in the world. Some parents do. My mother be thinking, you know, I had to really start telling her some shit for her to realize, like, girl, you was not the best mom in the world. I need you to bring it down to like a 2. Because right now you think you at a 15 or something. It's never gave that. Okay? Like, bring it down. All right? But in their head, they're doing what they're supposed to do. So they can't sometimes understand why you going to school and you acting out. Why you not showing up at school? Why you cutting classes? Why you not doing your homework? Why are you failing this class? Why are you failing these this class? I had to do night school in order for me to even graduate because my whole 11th grade year, I was not at school for real. I just really wasn't there. I would be doing all types of other shit. Literally. All up and through the neighborhood. I didn't give a damn. I'm not about to sit in that goddamn school when I got freedom. I got freedom right now. You know what I'm saying? So I would utilize that time, like I said, to do what the fuck I wanted to do. And all of this began to, like I said, curate a perspective for me that I took into my early 20s, where I found relationships that were very, very toxic. And I've shared some of the stories about some of the toxic relationships that I found. You know, dating a married man, him leaving his wife for me, and that making me feel some type of way. Because I had daddy issues. I always wanted my father to drop everything that he had going on for me. That didn't happen in so many ways. So when I found this married man and he said, hey, I'm gonna leave this lady for you, I said, oh my God, this man loves me. He loves me so much. Oh my God, what an amazing person, that he's going to give up all that he got going on and basically break apart his family for us to get an apartment together and live happily ever after. And that shit ended up being toxic as hell. Whole narcissist, no accountability in sight, blame game 3000. You know what I'm saying? Toxic as hell. But I only found that type of relationship because of the way that I was raised and the things that I experienced that I never dealt with, that nobody ever, explained to me. Nobody ever sat down and took the time to explain it to me. And my mom, in that situation, she didn't give me no, loving advice. My mother called me and told me I was being a hoe. That man would never leave his wife for you. She is the queen bee. I said, who the fuck said some shit like that to their child? She is the queen bee. She will never leave that man. He will never leave that man for you. I mean that woman for you. I hung up with her real fast. I called him. I said, my mama said that you would never leave your wife for me. He was like, what? Yes, I am. And did that shit. I'm like, in your face. He did it. So that didn't help. that didn't help prove any type of point. That did the opposite. That made me feel even more invincible. That made me feel like, you don't know what you're talking about. I told you, this is why I don't listen to your ass, because you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea. Right? But then I had to start looking at my family pattern. My mother dated a married man or married men. My grandmother dated a married man. My mother is the product of a relationship where her father was still married and had a whole family in North Carolina, South Carolina, where the fuck they was. Whole family he left behind, moved to DC, got with my grandmother, and had my mama. So she's the product of what I'm out here doing right now. So them toxic relationships that we get into are based on our childhood and also based on generational curses that have been unaddressed in our family dynamics. The apple only falls but so far from the goddamn tree. Especially when you are not nurturing and trying to teach that new child, that new bloodline a different way. But you can't teach it a different way if you haven't found one. And because my family, especially my mother's side, was based in religion, it was hard to try to tell them that they had shit wrong with them. And their solution wasn't, let's go sit with somebody, let's go to a therapist, let's go do this, let's go do that. No, their solution was, we're just going to pray. We're just going to pray to Jesus, and Jesus is going to handle it all. Jesus is going to fix it all. And that shit is toxic as hell. You talking about toxic? That shit is toxic as hell. You got somebody sitting here telling you that they dealing with certain things that you caused, and instead of, you know, there being some type of correction, it's just take it to the Lord, pray about it. What the hell? And then it would be a mind fuck because, okay, I'm praying about it and you still treat me like shit. I'm praying about it and ain't nothing changing. What? Like what? I'm confused. I'm praying about it and the family is still beefing behind closed doors but smiling in front of the church. I'm confused. I'm doing what you said. You said pray. You said do this. You said do that. I'm doing it. Nothing's changing. And that's because people change people. You change yourself. Period. You have to do the work to alter your mind, to change yourself, to see things from a different perspective. Right? So then you grow up again and you get into these relationships and these connections with other people, and they're toxic. And based on what your environment was, based on what your history was, based on the generational curses that your family may be, you know, dealing with or going through or whatever, based on all of that, sometimes you don't even realize that you're in something toxic because it's normal. It's just a Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? You start to think that people talking to you crazy is just how people talk. Because my mother talked crazy as hell. Woo, what? You talking about crazy? My mother talked crazy as hell. To not only just me, but my brother. She talk crazy as hell to anybody. I mean, it don't matter who you are. She would talk crazy as hell to you. So when I got into situations and me and whoever I was with was arguing and cussing each other the fuck out, I didn't see that as being toxic. That was just a normal day. Or even when I got into situations and I had to talk things out, my tone of voice was off. The way that I spoke to people was off. I'm cussing people out instead of having a decent conversation. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking shit to hell just because I'm in my feelings rather than trying to work certain things out and be an adult about it. Because nobody taught me how to do that. All I knew from the women in my family was to cuss motherfuckers out and hit below the belt when you needed to, and to be sneaky and conniving, and to, you know, be self-centered when it came to the shit that you wanted. You know, that's all I was taught. And I didn't realize those things until I was in situations where it was brought to my attention and I couldn't ignore it. Or I was shown something different that I wasn't used to. Or I was around different dynamics of relationships and that shit was taboo to me. Those were the only times that I kind of woke up. Now, there were moments where I knew I was doing shit that I shouldn't have been doing, and I kept doing it because it was a rush. You know what I'm saying? When they say you doing it for the plot, I was doing a lot of shit for the plot. I ain't had no type of spiritual guidance. I was in church, but that shit ain't stopped me from doing shit. If anything, church almost makes you feel like you can get away with the shit that you do. All I gotta do is repent. Okay, cool. Let me go do what I want, and then be like, oh, sorry, Jesus. My bad, Jesus. You know, the Bible said he gonna forgive you, you know, as many times as you need to. So, all right, cool. Let me test out the theory. Let me go do what I want and then get in church on Sunday. I went to church every Sunday, shit, multiple times a week for different shit. So I just wait till I get to fucking church and say whatever. Or when I go home at night, before I go to bed and I say my little prayer, I'm gonna repent. That's all, you know what I'm saying? That's all I had to do. That was my mentality. Nobody showed me, hey, you have to sit here and work through this stuff. You gotta point it out. You have to put that shit on the table and process it and make it make sense and figure out what all is connected to, and then make the necessary changes to release it. And then even after you release it, you may still be triggered, so then you got to work on your triggers. Nobody broke that shit down to me. That wasn't what was being taught to me. It was like she said, turn it all over to the Lord. He'll work it out. Pray, bring it to the altar, put your problems on the altar and walk away. You know what I'm saying? Nobody taught me accountability. Nobody taught me how to properly heal and what that looked like. Nobody even taught me what was and what wasn't toxic. I wasn't learning that. All I was learning is don't be out here having sex and you're not married, because that's a sin. Don't be out here doing this because that's a sin. Don't do that because that's a sin. Don't do this. Don't do that. You know what I'm saying? That was the shit that I was learning. Nobody was giving me principles and fundamentals when it came to becoming my best self. And that's because nobody gave them what they needed to become their best selves. So we get back into the generational curse of it all. Right? When your parents grow up without their father in a home, or without their mother in a home, or with a broken relationship with their parents, or having sexual assault or different things happen to them, you know what I'm saying? When they grow up in those types of environments, they are in so many ways no good to you. They can't be no good to you. And it's 50-50 responsibility and accountability. Half of that, they got to be responsible for. And the other half of that comes from their parents. Because they didn't get what they needed. And you can only give what you have. So if they don't have shit, yes, it's their responsibility to teach it to themselves. Right? But then there also is that part of, like, some of them don't even realize that they're in the predicaments that they're in. They don't even realize that they're affecting you in the ways that they're affecting you. So it's just like out of sight, out of mind. You know what I'm saying? It's like, who really knows type of thing, right? Somebody said, how do you get rid of soul ties? Okay, so let's go back into soul ties really quick. Now, again, I want to explain that all soul ties are not romantic, and all soul ties are not sexual. Catch my drift, okay? Trying to mince my words. So TikTok don't, whatever. I'm not on here representing Jesus. I'm not a Christian, so I don't want you to get that confused. But yeah, so all soul ties are not relationship based as far as romantic, and all soul ties are not intercourse based. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that, right? Now, it's important to realize that, again, there are 4 major type of soul ties, right? Physical, social, mental, emotional. Physical, social, mental, emotional, right? Those 4 different soul ties can apply to any relationship in your life, right? You can have friends that you are emotionally tied to. You can have family members that you are socially tied to. You can have people in your life that you are mentally tied to. You can have people in your life that you are physically tied to, right? And that doesn't require intercourse. That can be holding hands, kissing, touching, holding, hugging, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I've had best friends that I hold their hands and we walk down the fucking street. You know what I'm saying? There would be points where, I had cousins and we would be hip to hip, arm to arm. You know what I'm saying? So there's not always that type of connection always in the mix to make it a soul tie. Now, all soul ties aren't bad. Soul tie is simply the connection of souls. It doesn't always mean that it's a bad thing, because you can be tied to people and it be good, it be beneficial for you. The same way soulmates, everybody think that a soulmate is always something romantic. Your soulmate could be your brother. It doesn't have to be romantic. Your soulmate could be your grandma, your auntie. It don't have to be romantic. Right? So I really want y'all to, when you look at these words and you start to break them down and understand them, don't box it in to the point where you only look at it a certain way. You only think of it a certain way. You only think that it applies to certain people that you have a certain type of relationship with. Because then you're going to miss out on all of the other people that you could possibly have these types of connections with. Okay, so when it comes to getting rid of soul ties, it's not always just getting rid of the ones that are romantic. Sometimes you got to get rid of the soul ties to people that used to be your friend. Sometimes you gotta get rid of the soul tie to a family member, or excuse me, I was trying to fight that yawn, but it kept coming back, so I had to let it go. Sometimes you'll be, soul tied to people who are in your social space. So, like, for example, some of y'all could be in so many ways soul tied to me. This is a social setting, right? I'm a spiritual advisor. I do mentorships. I do consultations. We have in-depth conversations. People trust me with their secrets. People trust me with their truths. People get vulnerable with me. Of course, in some type of way, we can be connected to those people. Or I can be connected to those people. Or those people can be connected to me on a deeper level than just a conversation. Right? It just is what it is. So when you start to understand that and you start to see that for what it is, it will broaden your idea of how many connections you have with people that are either good and beneficial or that are not so good and maybe negative. Okay? Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can get rid of negative soul ties, but it all depends on how deep the soul tie goes. Okay? Because everything is not just a quick fix. Okay, especially if you have a specific type of history with these people or a specific type of connection with these people. For example, if you are soul tied to a parent, right, especially a mother, there's a deeper type of connection there because your mother carried you for 9 months. So y'all are tied on layers of levels. You know what I'm saying? Multiple different levels, right? If you are soul tied to a baby daddy or baby mama and y'all have been together for a while, or y'all have been through a lot, or y'all have multiple children with each other, or whatever the case is, that soul tie could be a little deeper. You know what I'm saying? It may take a little bit more effort, a little bit more work to really get to the root of it and release it the way that you need to, right? So what I would suggest starting off with is a burn letter. A burn letter is a beautiful place to start because it doesn't require you to do a whole lot of extra shit. It don't require you to go out and buy a whole lot of different ingredients of stuff. And then it also gives you an opportunity to kind of see where you are with that specific person. So a burn letter is basically a letter that you will write to that person, right? This person will never see this letter, so it doesn't matter. Okay, don't be like, oh, I can't be as real or as raw as I need to be, because this person's going to read it. They're not going to ever see it because you're going to burn it. That's the whole point of it, right? But in this burn letter, you're basically going to write as if you're writing to that person. And you're going to write out everything that comes to you when it comes to that relationship. So you can do this literally for anybody. Parent, a lover, a friend, whatever, okay? Whoever you encounter, whoever you are trying to navigate those emotions with, don't matter. A priest, a preacher, a mentor, don't matter, right? And you're going to say, dear this person, and then you're just going to allow yourself to just write whatever comes to you. Whatever the fuck comes to you, whatever comes up, whatever you feel, whether you want to talk about a situation, whether you want to talk about how that person made you feel, whether you want to talk about how that person hurt your feelings, whether you want to talk about how you feel about them, or, why you can't get over them, or why you can't leave them alone, or the way that they make you feel about your relationship or your connection. Whatever, it does not matter, okay? It can be in the chronological order. It can be all over the place. It don't matter because these are your thoughts, right? And your whole goal is to write out some of what you're feeling and bring some of that shit to the surface so that you can see, again, where you are with that particular person and that connection and that relationship, and then what else is there that you may not have known was there. Because a lot of the times, the shit that we go through with people, we don't really talk about it out loud. It's like you either talk about it with that person, you might bring it up with a friend or somebody, but you don't really go into depth about what you really feel all the time about that connection. A lot of it stays internal. A lot of it stays in your mind, in your head. A lot of it you don't really touch, right? So with that being said, there's a lot of things that you never addressed. There's a lot of things that you probably even didn't know you needed to address because you never put yourself in a position to really be open and honest and, out there when it comes to that. You know what I'm saying? So this gives you an opportunity to start to bring a lot of that shit to the surface, to start to go through a lot of those conversations and emotions and feelings and things of that nature. And then you don't have to worry about being invalidated, because that's another reason why we don't release or process certain things that we need to, because we feel like, okay, if I bring it to this person, all they're going to do is tell me that I'm crazy. They're going to invalidate how I feel. They're going to say that no, it's not like that, it's like this. They're going to say this and that, you know, whatever it is. They're going to have a rebuttal, or they're going to completely dismiss it and be like, no, fuck you, I don't care, that's not what it is, we're not having a conversation, I'm not taking no accountability, you're tripping, something's wrong with you, you off in the head. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people that you can't bring your truth to, even though you may love them, even though you may care for them, even though you may want a certain type of relationship with them, or even though you may want to take this relationship to another level, or have this relationship develop in some type of way, right? So the burn letter gives you an opportunity to speak your truth without anybody telling you that you're wrong for how you feel, without anybody invalidating your feelings, without anybody coming with their explanation, without anybody saying anything. I don't have to worry about y'all saying a damn thing. It don't even matter, because this is my piece of paper. You know what I'm saying? This is I'm in my own energy. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to worry about you reading it and getting mad, and then I have to deal with that. It just really protects you and your feelings and gives you an opportunity to just be real and be raw with yourself, right? So after you write out everything, the most beneficial thing that you can do next, and which is what I tell all of my clients, is to read that out loud to yourself. Read it out loud, because most of the shit that you feel, you never spoke out loud. And you don't think about it until you do it. And there's a huge portion of healing that happens when you vocally speak your truth. There's a huge portion of healing that happens when you activate your throat chakra and you speak your truth out loud. Not only that, when you speak your truth out loud, you also give yourself an opportunity to hear that shit. Because when you writing and you reading things, or if you keeping certain shit in your head, you can't really process it all the way like you would hearing it back to you. That's why we get so triggered when people tell us about ourselves, because I can hear it. I can hear what you're saying about me. I can feel what I'm feeling about what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? It's putting me in a certain mentality. It's putting me in a certain energy. And I don't like that shit. You know what I'm saying? That's why we be so defensive, right? So when you can speak your own truth and you can hear yourself saying certain things, it starts to give you a different perspective, and it also starts to open you up to other possibilities of who you are as a person and how you show up in relationships, how you show up in partnerships, right? Because not everybody did something to you when it comes to these toxic relationships. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just the other people who was toxic and who made you feel the way that they made you feel. It wasn't just the other people that talked to you a certain type of way. It wasn't just the other people that treated you a certain type of way. No, you had your hand in some shit too. You know what I'm saying? There's room for accountability for everybody to take. There's a piece for everybody. It's like cupcakes. Everybody got their own little individual piece that they need to be accountable for. Everybody got their own little individual thing that they need to kind of, thank you for the gift, babe, that they need to, you know what I'm saying, call out and put out there on the tape. So you get an opportunity to do that within the comfort of your own energy. And you don't have to worry about other people, you know, making you feel worse, or you having to defend yourself, or, you know, anything like that. So you write out everything, you read it back to yourself. And sometimes, of course, when you read it back to yourself out loud, you're going to have emotions that come up that you didn't know was there as well. So be prepared to cry, be prepared to be upset, be prepared to feel some type of way. You know what I'm saying? Though that's just a part of the process, right? And a lot of the times we go through certain things, and we never process it. So we don't really know for real, how much we're holding on to or how much we feel about a certain situation, because we just used to going through shit and moving to the next thing, going through shit, moving to the next thing, going through shit, moving to the next thing. So you're not taking any time to be like, damn, that really hurt my feelings. Damn, that really made me sad. Damn, that really showed me this or showed me that. Damn, that really opened my eyes to this or opened my eyes to that. Or you don't even have the time to get through all of that, okay? And there is no trauma that you can heal and let go of if you don't process it. And processing it means I'm allowing myself to feel what I feel. You know what I'm saying? I'm allowing myself to feel what I feel. Regardless of what it is. Regardless of what that looks like. I'm allowing myself to feel that. And I'm understanding that me allowing myself to feel that doesn't mean that I'm going to be taken out. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to take me out. It's not going to negatively affect me. I'm not going to, not be able to live a life and be happy and do this and do that. I'm not going to be you know what I'm saying? Like, I will be okay even after I give myself the space to be vulnerable. And sometimes that's a lesson within itself, because again, when you come from certain environments where you were never given the space to be vulnerable, or no one ever told you what vulnerability looked like, or nobody ever showed you what it looked like, then of course you're going to have your struggles when it comes to that. Of course you're not going to know what it looks like. Of course you're going to have an idea of how that can negatively affect you in your head. Of course you're going to come up with your own version of what could potentially happen if I share my feelings, if I be vulnerable, if I, acknowledge how I feel, if I let myself be sad, if I let myself be angry, if I show that person that whatever they're doing is affecting me. Because that was one of my things. I never wanted anybody to see the things that they were doing were affecting me. So I would shut down, I would close off, I would go ghost, I would disappear, I would do whatever I needed to do to take myself out of the spotlight, so I can not feel like, okay, I'm putting myself out there and I'm being vulnerable and then it's being taken advantage of. Or it's not being appreciated, or I'm not having the correct support. And that goes back to my childhood. There were moments when my parents should have sat me down and had a vulnerable moment with me. And that didn't happen for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of them didn't get sat down and have vulnerable moments with their parents. Right? So hurt people. Maybe not intentionally, and sometimes intentionally. Sometimes you do have parents who have a goal to hurt you, hurt your feelings, make you feel some type of way, talk to you crazy, make you doubt yourself, make you question yourself, whatever. That happens as well. So I'm not even going to sit here and act like that cannot be a possibility, because it absolutely can. You know what I'm saying? It absolutely can. There are a lot of parents and who don't want the best for their kids. They don't want their children to be better than they are. They don't want their children to come into a different lifestyle, or live a full life, or whatever the case is. They don't want those things. They want their child to struggle. They want their child to be invalidated. They want their child to be sad. They want their child to be angry. They want their child to feel unloved. You do have parents like that, right? And usually it dates back to their childhood and the way that their parents treated them. Hurt people. Okay? Yes, I do one-on-one mentoring. I currently have a special on my website for healing services. Mentoring falls under that. I have a buy one get one free for mentorship. You purchase the mentorship, you get a free 10-card reading at the end of the mentorship. I also have if you spend $55 on my website on a healing service, you get 10% off of an additional service. And the promo code for the $55 promo is PocaHonest. So PocaHonest, like in my name, 25. Okay, put that in at checkout. And it will calculate the discount for you. All right. But yeah, also with the burn letter, like my girl C said, sometimes you got to do it more than once, right? Any type of spiritual tools that you use, whether it's a burn letter, whether it is a healing exercise or shadow work exercise or whatever, any of those tools, those are tools. Right? So you think of it like a hammer. If I purchase a hammer, I'm not buying it just for one nail. You know what I'm saying? I'm not buying a hammer just to do the work that I need to do for one day and then I take it back to the store. No, I purchased that hammer so that I can use it for now, and then anytime in the future that I need it, I can pull it back out. Same thing with these tools and exercises when it comes to your healing journey. You don't have to just do it one time. There's multiple different situations, there's multiple different occasions, there's multiple different relationships, there's multiple different experiences that you may need some of those same tools for. Hello to everybody coming in. There's multiple things that you can go and use those tools for in the future, dealing with the past, whatever the case is, right? So you never want to go into any exercise thinking like, okay, I did it once, I didn't get all of the results that I wanted, so obviously this don't work, or obviously this don't work for me, or whatever. No. Again, like Shrek say, we are onions and we have layers. Okay, there's so many layers to us. There's so many layers to some of the things that we've experienced. There's so many layers to some of the things that we have gone through and that we have seen and that we have done. And, you know, based on the people that we come from, based on the generational curses that we have in our bloodlines, there's so much that is layered in our lives that it's not going to just be a one and done thing. And all of my clients, I tell them, hey, I'm here to help you lay the foundation. Because if you have a solid foundation, which means that, you know, you have a good mentality, you starting your healing properly, you're not just, you know, moving to try to do spell work and manifestations and all this shit when you know you got all these other issues that are unaddressed, that you ain't did shit with. You know what I'm saying? No, right? The foundation is shadow work and self-love. That is the foundation of all spiritual journeys. And then you can also partner in ancestor relationship, because all of those things are going to come together and kind of be your crutch, or kind of be those stepping stones that you need to start to really dig deep and get to the other issues, right? Because there's things that are buried deep beyond the surface that either you may not have recognized, things that you may not have thought about, things that you may not have considered. I mean, there's so many things that make us who we are, or that have gotten us to where we are right now, right? Whether you're conscious of it or not, they still affect you. Okay? And usually when we think about the things that affect us, we think about the major traumas, the things that we just can't forget, right? The things that we're always thinking about, or the things that have had, you know, a certain effect on us that kind of keeps it etched in our brain, right? But that's just not, that's not it. That's not the only thing, right? There are things that affect you on a deep, deep, deep level, but they're not on the surface. Right? So, like, for example, I told y'all before, you know, I grew up in, yes, babe, this will be on YouTube. The link is in my bio for those who want to subscribe. All of my lives get posted to YouTube. I grew up in my grandmother's home, right? And like I said before, my grandmother is the sweetest lady that you would ever meet. She has the most beautiful soul, right? But she's scary as hell. She's just scary. She's just scared. She's scared of everything. She's scared of being outside, walking outside, You know, when I was a kid, I could play right in front of the house and she still would be scared that somebody would come snatch me up. You know what I'm saying? Just terrified, okay? And I didn't realize how much that affected me until I got into my early 20s, and I wouldn't allow myself to do certain things because I was scared to do them. I was scared to get out of my comfort zone. I was scared to do, you know, to go on adventures and to be in new environments and to do new things and to take leaps of faith and to push myself to do other shit. You know what I'm saying? I was afraid, and I didn't really realize that that was a part of some of the traumas that I had picked up on. Because usually you don't think of that as being a trauma. You just be like, oh, my grandmama just scary and she told me to be scary a little bit. Excuse me, y'all. The girl is tired a little bit. It's usually my nap time. But, you know, you really don't think about that as being like a trauma. You know what I'm saying? You don't think of that as being something that would really have that big of an effect on you. But it does. And fear is one of the biggest hindrances to you doing what you need to do in life or getting to where you're supposed to get to in life. You know what I'm saying? Fear is one of the most people don't do shit out of fear. Most people don't accomplish what they want to accomplish in life out of fear. Most people don't get to the places they want to get to in life because of fear. You know what I'm saying? So when you start to look at it from that perspective and you start to break that shit down and you start to go over your childhood, and when you're doing childhood trauma healing, the goal is not to go through it looking for traumas. Because when you go through your childhood looking for traumas, you are boxing out a whole bunch of shit that could pop up that you need to see based on what in your head a trauma looks like. You know what I'm saying? You going into it like, oh, traumas look like this and traumas look like that. So as I'm browsing through my childhood, I'm looking for the shit to look like this and to look like that. But what if it don't look like that and it's still a trauma? You gonna skip right over that shit like I did plenty of times. You know what I'm saying? For example, and this may be a little heavy, but y'all know we talk real over here. Like I said, my trauma started at 5. I was sexually assaulted in preschool. Well, not preschool, pre-K. Technically, we pre-K or kindergarten. Right? By children. 2 little boys. 2 children. Right? I would have never, and for the majority of my life, I never looked at myself as somebody who got assaulted. I never looked at myself as somebody who had something that happened to them of that nature, and I be in the same conversation of women who I know have gone through what I would say real situations. I wouldn't look at it like that. And that's because in my brain, the only way that shit would count is if it was an adult. You know what I'm saying? The only way that would count is if it was, you know, that type of situation. Not for it to be another child. That didn't make sense in my head. So I'm like, that didn't, you know, it's not that deep. Children is, I used to say it was just kids being kids. But kids don't do shit like that. No regular normal kid is going to school thinking about none of the stuff that they did. Right? So that's not a normal thing for a child to do. And it wasn't until when I went through my childhood through my childhood to do healing, instead of me looking for traumas, I would do something that I called the interview method. So I would basically act like somebody was interviewing me and saying, tell me everything that happened to you in your life. Start from the beginning. And I would say, you know, I was born June, blah, 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 1990, blah, blah, blah. And I was born to these 2 people. And I was born at this hospital in this state. And eventually, you know, a year later, my mom had my little brother. And then we was living with my grandmother, my mom's mom, and then from there we moved here, and then we did this, and then this happened, and then that happened, and then I went to this school, and then I started doing this in this school, and then by this age I was doing this. I literally walked myself through it, not looking for nothing, but just simply going over the information, replaying it like a movie in my head, and just going step by step, age by age, moment by moment, that I could remember in a chronological order. Right? Now, I know some people will be like, well, I don't remember certain things at a certain age. That's okay. Skip over that shit. Do it from where you remember, and if there's some spots that's foggy, move to the next thing that you remember. Don't make it a hard thing to do, and don't make it something that you start forcing on yourself, you know, and it's not organic anymore. Thank you for the gifts. Make it something where you can simply go through it, right? And as you start to go through it, the real you, your real feelings, because now you're an adult, and a lot of times we don't understand why we feel the way we feel, or why we're in the situations we're in, because it happened to us as a kid and we never went back to make adult sense of it. So when you do shit like that, you're giving yourself an opportunity to make adult sense of what you experienced. Because you're going back through it, but your perspective is different. Your outlook is different. Your life is different. You done had different experiences now. You done grown up. You done, did this and did that. Maybe you got kids of your own now. You know what I'm saying? You're in a whole new predicament. You're in a whole new place in life. You've grown. The people in your life has grown. The people who are in those situations grown. Like, it's a whole different energy, right? So you don't necessarily... You have a better chance of getting to the bottom of it because you're in a different space. So things that may not have stuck out to you before, they didn't stick out because you was a kid going through those things. Simple. It didn't stick out because you were a child. So there's no way that you would have read those situations the way that you needed to read it. There's no way that you would have seen certain things that you needed to see. It's just no way. So of course, when you think of your childhood traumas, all you're thinking about is the things that did stick out. The things that were kind of in your face. The things that were, right there for you to grab as a kid. Right? It's not until you go back through it without any type of, bias, right? Because we kind of have a bias a little bit, right? We have a certain bias where it's like, okay, when we hear the word trauma, our mind goes to certain things. So when we're like childhood trauma, you like, okay, when I hear trauma and I hear childhood, these are the 4 different things that my mind brings up. When in reality, it could be 10. Right? But those other 6 things that you're not seeing, you're going to have to figure out a way to get to those things. And the only way you can do that is by taking your time and going through the process from the beginning. Right? Because it was in childhood that a lot of these things started. You may not have noticed that it started in childhood, but it did. You may not have seen it, and it may not have stood out to you, but that's what it is. Right? I'm going to open the floor up for any specific questions, and then I'm going to end this live, and we're going to do a reading for today. But I want to make sure before I close out that we go through any questions that you guys may have in regards to the topic or shadow work period. Again, make sure you click the link in my bio to subscribe to my YouTube. This will be posted on YouTube tomorrow, probably tomorrow night, maybe. The live that I did, the reading that we did yesterday will be posted tonight around like 7:30, I think. One of the other readings we did yesterday was posted this rising, so that's already up on YouTube. Also, the specials on the website are still available, so feel free to choose whatever resonates for you. I'm not not a therapist, so I can't say I can be your therapist, but I can be your counselor or your mentor. I have counseling sessions that I do with people once a week, twice a week, every other week, every 2 weeks. I have different setups for counseling sessions for those who want to tap in with me on a week-to-week basis and chit-chat and get advice or whatever the case is. So feel free to go on the website and see what you see. If you don't see anything that works for you, you can always fill out a contact form on my website, or you can just shoot me a DM. Let me know what you need, and we'll figure out a price for it. Okay? I also do payment plans for those type of sessions as well. Personal payment plans, like through me. How do you deal with guilt of wanting to get away from your family and friends? Number one, understanding that just because you are related to people, it doesn't mean that you have to force a connection. That was one thing that I had to learn. You don't have to be in connection with people just because y'all share blood. That's the standard, right? Because that's how society has kind of put things together, and it just makes sense. Like, people who are blood related are usually in the same space the most, right? Either you in the same house or you at the same family functions or whatever. So it's kind of been like the thing to try to make sure that those relationships stay intact, or that you kind of force those relationships even if they're not good for you, which I don't believe in. Oh, we almost at our goal. Shout out to you, Bald and Bear. Oh, goal achieved. Shout out to you. Let's start a new one. But yeah, I'm never gonna be the type to ever believe that you should be forcing anything with anybody. I don't care who it is that does not contribute to your peace, your mental health, or the direction of your life. So I'm not going to say that this is an easy thing and it's just like, oh, you know what I'm saying, you just forget about it and you just do X, Y, and Z and you just blah, 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 blah. Like, no, I'm not going to say that. What I will say is, my bad, y'all. What I will say is there is a process to it. First, figuring out just for yourself why you feel the way you feel about that person, why you feel the way you feel about that connection, why you feel the way you feel about that relationship, why you want to separate yourself. And this is not to say you gotta have a reason that is acceptable for you to do it. It's just to gather your own thoughts, right? A lot of times we just need to gather our own thoughts and really figure out, okay, why am I feeling the energy that I'm feeling? Why am I in the mental space that I'm in? Why am I wanting to remove myself from these people and not be around these people, right? That's going to help you gain clarity for yourself, right? Then the next step would be to, depending on how toxic they are, either sometimes you got to disconnect wholeheartedly, like completely, like just cut their ass off and not be around them again, depending on what the dynamic is. Because sometimes the relationship is so toxic, there is no space for y'all to try to work it out or baby step it or figure things out, or kind of just remove yourself from one space but still deal with them in a different space. Like, sometimes you just gotta completely just cut it the fuck off. So you need to figure out what that looks like for you. What does me removing myself look like? Doesn't mean I'm removing myself completely. And will I be okay mentally if I don't remove myself completely? Or would it be a situation where maybe I am used to seeing this person on a continuous basis, and now I'm only going to change it to a couple times a week, or a couple times out the month, or a couple times out the year, right? You got to kind of figure out what works for me based on where I am, based on how I've assessed the situation so far, right? So I use myself as an example. When I first started my healing, I didn't cut my mom off because I didn't see the need to completely cut her off at that point. It just wasn't a need for me to do that. Not that I couldn't or nothing like that. I just didn't see that being the answer at that point in time, right? But eventually, the deeper I got into my shadow work and the deeper I got into my spiritual journey, my mother, of course, is a pastor. Her mother is a pastor. We all grew up in church our whole lives, literally since birth. Okay, I told y'all before, like when I was born, my grandmother, my grandfather, my mom's father, we had a church in the basement, and he took me downstairs, and when I came home from the hospital, and set me and laid me on the goddamn altar. So from day one, you know, I was being indoctrinated into religion. So with them being so religious and me being fresh into my spiritual journey, at some point those two things started to collide. And when I would get on the phone with my mom, it would be debates about the Bible and how I need to live my life like this, and how I'm over here playing with demons or conjuring demons or whatever she felt like saying for the day, or, you know, telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing. And I'm grown at this point. I done been out my mama's house at this point for years. I left the house at 18, so I had been out the house for years at this point. And it's just like, girl, like, now it's starting to become detrimental to what I'm trying to do. So now I have to cut you off. You know what I'm saying? Now I have to remove myself. Now I have to walk away. Whereas before, maybe I didn't want to do that. Whereas before, you know what I'm saying, I didn't want to get into all of that. I was still trying to make it work and keep you around because you're my mother. Going back to that whole society's norms. You know, you don't cut off your mother. You don't do blah, 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 blah. And even when I did cut my mother off for the time that I did, my grandmother was calling my phone. My mama's sister was calling my phone. Her brother was calling my phone. Everybody telling me, you don't stop talking to your mom. That's your mom. And this is this and this is that. And you don't do that and blah, 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 blah. And you only get one mama. And you only get one this and one that. And you got to do this and you got to do that. And wop, wop, whoop, whoop. And I was just like, bro, y'all don't understand what I'm going through. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got their perspective, and based on whatever my mom was telling them, they felt like that was their job to try to speak up on her behalf, not knowing how detrimental it was for me to keep her around while trying to achieve what the fuck I got going on. You know what I'm saying? While trying to do what I needed to do for myself and for my own mental health, right? So I had to cut her off for a little bit. And during that time I cut her off, she would send me Bible verses and, you know, text me how much she loved me and, you know, all of this shit that I felt like was manipulative. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not respecting what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that I'm not going to church no more. I'm telling you that I don't believe in what you believe in anymore, and you're still basically trying to get me to do what you want me to do. Girl, I said no. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, damn, you still are not learning from me even cutting you off. So eventually it got to a point where she started to respect it. You know what I'm saying? She started to, I'm not even going to say respect it, but she just didn't bring it up. It wasn't a conversation anymore. It was more so like, she started asking me questions that she didn't normally ask me. How are you doing? Are you okay? Are you good? You know, do you need anything? Do you blah, 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 blah? And she started turning to a different version of herself. I said, hold up, is this my mama? Is this the same lady who would only call me when there was some family drama or some church drama, or if she needed to talk to me about my brothers, or if she needed to talk to me about how somebody did this to her and somebody did that to her and somebody made her feel this way and somebody made her feel that way? You know what I'm saying? Can't be this lady. You know what I'm saying? So it started to change. And then at any point moving forward, if it got back to that same energy, I would cut her ass off again. In the fullness of my journey, I'll say I have been super, super consistent with my journey for, I want to say, like the last 6 to 8 years, where I've been tapping in. A lot of it was behind closed doors before I even told my family anything. But as being, you know, as far as being out in the open with my beliefs and not really giving a fuck about how they feel, throughout that time, I probably cut my mama off, baby, I don't even know, 8, 9, 10 times. I done stopped talking to her. I done had to cuss her out. You know what I'm saying? Not cuss, because I still have a respect for my mother. I'm not just going to cuss her the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? But I done had to go there with her on certain shit. You know what I'm saying? I had to send her some very, very detailed messages about herself. We done got into it on FaceTimes, phone calls, all type of shit. And I had to set those. That was my way of setting boundaries. You come at me crazy, I'm gonna say what I gotta say, and then I'm not talking to you. And then eventually got to a place where you come at me crazy, I'm not even gonna say shit. I'm just gonna stop talking to you. Right? And I had to do that for my mental health and for my peace. Right? Same thing with my father. There were moments growing up and throughout my life I didn't talk to my dad. Because there were certain things that had happened. And I'm like, nigga, I can't. If I say what I really want to say, what's really on my heart, I'm going to get called every type of disrespectful, this blah, 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 blah. I'd rather just not speak. I'd rather just not say nothing. I'd rather just not be around. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather just be over here in the cut to myself. Right? And it wasn't until the moment presented itself that I was able to have conversations with my dad. You know, my father's way more open, you know, to certain things than versus my mother. You know, moms are just different. You know what I'm saying? Moms are they're just a different breed. It's different because they feel like they know everything that's good for you and everything that you should and shouldn't be doing, and they feel like they was given the instructions for your life, and they can just, you know, they're just a different breed. It's just so much different with mothers than it is with, you know, fathers. So periodically and to this day, if I need to cut my mother off, I will. Anybody who disrupts my peace, anybody who disrespects me, anybody who talks to me crazy, anybody who, you know, just is negative, you getting cut the fuck off. I don't care. I don't give a damn. Your ass is grass. You got to go. You got to go. It is what it is. Right? So to answer your question, again, start with processing why you want to make the decision that you want to make so that you can gain clarity, right? And then figure out what that looks like for you. Doesn't mean going cold turkey and just cutting them completely off, or doesn't mean that you distance yourself in certain areas. Doesn't mean that you pull back in certain areas. Like, it looks different for everybody, which is why I didn't want to give you just a broad, blanketed type of statement, because healing is subjective. You know what I'm saying? What is required for me to have peace and mental clarity may be different from what's required for you to have peace and mental clarity, right? So as long as you consult yourself first and you kind of break down and put all your cards on the table to figure out why you feel how you feel and how you got to that feeling and all of those things, you know, then you'll be able to process the best plan to action moving forward. Because maybe for your situation, you don't need to cut them all the way off. You just need to remove yourself. Or maybe you do. You know what I'm saying? But only you would know that based on your ability to assess your own situation. Okay? Can you explain the self-interview? So yes. Also, if anybody else have comments, feel free to type them in the comment section, and I'm going in order of what, you know, is put in the comment section. So the interview, again, you want to start with the earliest part of your life that you remember. For me, I started at like 3 and 4 years old, because that's when I can remember actual memories that I can talk about. I started with the information that you know, of course, you know, like I was born in this city, in this state, at this time. I mean, as specific as you want to get with those type of things. But I was born here at this hospital at this time to these two parents, and then I would name my parents, and I would name if I had siblings at the time or not, or whenever my siblings were born, I would put that out there. And I would just basically, as if I was telling somebody, if somebody said, hey, I want you to tell me every single detail that you have about your life right now, start from the beginning. That's kind of how you want to think about it. And you don't want to think like, oh, let me only point out the things that were traumatic. Let me only point out the things that affected me in a negative way. Let me only point out the things. No, point out everything. Because as you're going through those stories and as you're going through your life and you're recounting all of those memories, all of it is not going to be bad. All of it won't be negative. You know what I'm saying? All of it won't be a low vibrational type of thing. You know, there's going to be some good moments in there. There's going to be some happy moments in there. There's going to be some good times in there. There's going to be some bad times in there. It's going to be a mixture of all of it because that's just life. That's how lives look. You know what I'm saying? So your job is to start from as early as you can, right? And again, if there's certain moments that you don't remember, if there's certain areas of your life that's spotty, then pass that and go to what you do remember. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if your earliest memories start at 6, start at 6. If your earliest memories start at 15, start at 15. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, again, healing is subjective. So everybody has a different starting point. Everybody's healing is going to look different. It's going to feel different. It's going to appear different. And the method to get you to your healing, you're going to have to basically, it's like a recipe, right? It's like when you see a recipe online, that's like the standard foundation. But you can add a little bit more seasoning or a little less seasoning if you want to. You can add ingredients if you want to or take out ingredients if you want to. You can make it yours. So that's kind of what this is. Take the foundation of the exercise, of the tool, not just for this, but for any tool that you use for healing, and add and take away whatever you need to make it fit you and your life more better. Because if it don't fit for you, it's not going to be effective. So don't be afraid to, you know, bend the lines a little bit, add a little bit, take away a little bit, in order to really get to the bottom of whatever you need to get to the bottom of. Okay? Any other final questions before I hop off of this live? Again, after this live, I'm going to restart it in a second, and then we're going to go do maybe like an hour of a reading. I'm not going to be on there too long. Again, make sure that you hit the links in my bio. My website is there for those who want to book a service. My YouTube is there as well for those who want to subscribe so that you can watch these videos back from the beginning. This video will be posted tomorrow. So when you do subscribe and you're looking for this video, come back tomorrow and it'll be posted. The videos from yesterday were posted today. One of them was posted earlier this rising. The next one will be posted tonight. And then same thing for the live that I'm about to do. The reading I'm about to do after this will be posted tomorrow rising, and this will probably be posted later on in the afternoon tomorrow. Yeah, also I'm gonna try to get on here a little bit earlier tomorrow, so I'm gonna try to catch y'all at lunchtime, and see if that works a little bit better, and we'll go from there. Is reading your given talent, or did you cultivate it? Both. It was a given talent, but it was something that I definitely had to and still do cultivate. All gifts you cultivate, you know, to some degree, and that you should be actively cultivating your gifts. For sure. All right, y'all, I'm about to hop off. Give me like 5 minutes because I'm about to give me a little snack, and then I'm going to go back live and we're going to do a quick little ancestor reading for the day. All right? Light and love.